Hey, you! Good day. I hope you're having a nice one. So, I want to let you know something. I am actually starting to edit stories, developmental editing. So, if you're writing a story and you would love for that story to be edited, please let me know. And I will basically edit the heck out of it, the structure, yes. And then we can have, at the end of it, I can send you a 50-page or 30 to 50-page document detailing all the different issues. And finally, I can also have a face-to-face conversation with you privately, online, of course, yes, and we can discuss. So, two things. I can developmental edit, give you a critique document, 30 to 50 pages, and then I can also, maybe if there is a necessity for it, have a face-to-face online conversation, and we can discuss all the issues one-to-one. So my rates are typically usual, just anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. You can DM me. Half the money for the editing will be paid first, and the other half will be paid second when I finish the job. So, with that said, you can just send me an email in your, in my Gmail, right? Yes. And my email obviously is in the channel description. Anyhow, today, what is this? This is actually a story by my friend, Jack Shannon. I quite love Jack Shannon. He's a great friend of mine. I've known him for years. And Brigandine is a very interesting story. And I'm going to review this story today. So I'm not really going to read and look at the writing for chapter to chapter. But I will be reviewing the whole story without spoilers. Surprise, surprise. It is a very, 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 very interesting story, okay? So, if you're wondering where have I been for all this time, by the way, I have really been handling life. It's quite tough. Yes. But finally, I'm done with it. I finally got a huge internship as an engineer. And so I'm really happy with that. So anyways, Brigandine. Okay, so by Jack Shannon. Jack Shannon. Of course, this is copyrighted material. Now, I think it helps to actually read or go ahead and read, the synopsis for this story, right? So this story is actually about a group of mercenaries led by this guy called Ulf, and they are hired as bodyguards by a bunch of actors. Yes, a pair of actors, and there's this war going on, and they have to go through a lot of suffering. Okay. The industrial amount of violence in this story is really eye-opening. Yeah, because you think you know grimdark until you have read this story. So Jack Shannon really puts the dark in the grim, or the grim in the dark. Yes. Anyways, as a cult of black ram waxes strong, Ulf must face his past and the life he left behind, or else doom himself and the entire land of Ashenfell. So with this story, right, I think it's important to ask the question, what do I think of it? Yeah? Now I have my notes here, okay? Because I have them in like one whole page document, because I was planning to do a light review, because again, I don't want to spoil it. But I have strengths and weaknesses particular story, right? One strength that I cannot deny is character. The character of Ulf is a very strong character. There can be issues with it, okay? The character of Ulf, there can be issues with it. Specifically, the weakness he has is that he is cliched. We have had a lot of stories where there is some sort of an assassin or a tough guy or a protagonist that has a mysterious backstory. Or there are a lot of things that suddenly, he has a job, but there's a lot of things from his past that conflict with that job. Yeah? So you need to protect the princess, but the guy is struggling with his own demons. Exactly. So those kinds of stories, or in a thriller setting, most of them are actually in thriller setting. You have, the guy is an a-hole, but of course, he's very good at his job, and he may have to overcome that by the end of the story. So there is a cliched element to the protagonist Ulf. Okay, he's really cliched. I am not gonna joke about it, and I'm going to be very honest about it, and die in a fire. And And so this leads me, so that's the first strength, the character. But with it obviously comes the nature of Ulf, that he is somewhat cliched. But also, please pay attention to this, because this title I have come to here is not random. This chapter I've come to is not random. This is the next thing, the next strength about this story. And it is the best, the biggest strength that this story has. And it is the author, Jack Shannon himself, and the voice of this story. It was raining again. Everything was wet in that horrible way when it's been pouring for days, and you can't even remember what warm and dry feels like. I pulled off my boots and flung them under a bush in the vain hope they would be dry by morning. My feet were cold and covered in mud where it had oozed in through the leather. I desperately needed new soles, or better yet, a new pair of boots. But boots cost money, and I didn't have any. So the voice of this story, the voice of the the character is the characters, the POV is very good. And by the way, there is this capacity that the author Jack Shannon has to mix the voice, something like this, for instance. Yes, because this with actual practical descriptions. There is practicality to the descriptions, My feet were cold and covered in mud. Yes, where it had oozed in through the leather. So on a fundamental level, this is practical descriptions. These are practical descriptions, but they are mixed in with the voice. And this is what I like when authors mix the voice with practicality. So we can follow the story along, and also we can have fun with the voice of the characters, the sauce as well as the meal. Then obviously you have the characters. The supporting cast is not really that nice, or it's not that unique, obviously. But one thing that is very good is the pacing. There's a lot of things that are done in this story, and there is a lot of thriller elements in it. And so the characters are running from one point to the next. And ultimately, what you do end up with is a very nice situation where the story moves along at a good pace. Yes. Most people have prologues that are 20 pages long. I mean, this guy has a prologue that's just 1 page. It moves. It really moves. And it knows what it is. The story is not confused. It knows what it is. It knows what it's going for. And it's going for effectively 2 things. The thriller aspect of the fantasy, but also the character of Ulf. He has to confront quite a lot of difficulties from his past and quite a lot of addiction from within himself. So he has to overcome those character challenges. And all of that is accomplished, the plot, the world building, the supporting cast given enough to shine, and also all that voice, it's all accomplished in 370 pages. That's extraordinary if you ask me, because most authors would need 400 or 500 pages. So the pacing is also one of the strongest elements. But I have to say, man, that is where the strengths finish. There are no more strengths for this story. Okay? There are no more strengths for it. And I have to say, on a fundamental level, the world building is not good. Specifically, it is not unique. I have read quite a lot of fantasy stories, and there's so much better world building out there. It is honestly not unique at all. We usually don't honestly, it's not that unique at all. You have dense wood on my back. The overhanging trees gave me some protection from the rain, and I kept half. The world around him is very boring. There are no unique things about the world. Exactly. Of course, am I bothered by this? Not really. Because again, I was there for the voice and Ulf, the character of Ulf, and the voice and the fighting. Exactly, yes. A lot of skull bashing. That's what I was there for. Because I figured by the time I finished reading the synopsis, I knew what I was getting into. By the way, that is another strength. By the time you finish reading the synopsis, you know what you're getting into. Exactly, yes. So I have to say, on a fundamental level, the world building is very basic, and it's very predictable, much like the protagonist, and that is another weakness. Yes. So those are my thoughts on this story. I'm not gonna spoil it, I promise. And do I recommend you read this story? Absolutely. I think it's fantastic. If I were to give it a rating, I would say, it's 4 out of 5. It's 4 out of 5, and I would say more so. It's 8. If you multiply that by 2, you get 8 out of 10, right? So it's 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10. I enjoyed this story because, again, it was honestly my rebrief from a lot of design engineering and structural engineering that I was doing. So yeah, did I love this? I absolutely loved it. And I hope that you go ahead and check it. I'm going to leave the links below. And don't forget, I now edit stories. So if you want me to officially edit your story and to give you a giant document and to have a face-to-face explanation, please let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this and took something out of it. Have a nice day. Bye.